Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with a quick album review of something that's recently been released by Esoteric Records, and it's an album that I've wanted for a long time. There's something about the early albums that came out of the Island Records label which have got a kind of innocence, rock and roll naivety to them, and that Chris Blackwell and that label, you know, bands, they all knew each other, they were all involved, they all hung around the studio together and the offices together, and they just played on each other's albums. And this was this magical time when if a band kind of went on a hiatus or they split up or something, instead of everyone disappearing, you know, the record label would look at the different members and go, do you want to do a solo album while you decide what you want to do next? And the guy would go, yeah, why not? I'll do a solo album. Even if they weren't thinking about what they were even going to put on it. Because in those days, you didn't have to think about whether it was going to sell or be commercial. You just went into the studio and doodled a bit. And great things came out of doodling. Paul Kossoff's Backstreet Crawl album, which I shall cover very soon, is a good example of that. And this one, from someone who was not that far removed in label terms and probably age and where they lived in London, is Luther Grosvenor, formerly of Spooky Tooth, with Under Open Skies, although he was actually from Evesham, wasn't he? But he looks very different than where he became Ariel Bender in Mott the Hoople, not that long after this came out. But the gatefold sleeve of the old vinyl would have been a picture of our hero wearing a cape and in a wood, because that was the kind of time that we lived in. And why do I like this album? We've got Jim Capaldi's on harmonies, because he also lived in Evesham as well. Mike Kellie on drums, John Hawken on piano, organ, and who else have we got on it? Trevor Burton on bass guitar. It was produced by Tony Platt and Luther Grosvenor as well, and getting it together was Muff Winwood as well. And there's, as I said, this kind of like naivety. There was this bit, Jim Capaldi writes in the original cover, it says, Luther and me walking through Evesham late at night with an acoustic guitar laughing, this is my boy. No interviews please, me playing the part of a manager talking about his boy. Luther's about 16 and I was about 18. We laughed and played our way through lots of different situations and changes. We still go back to Evesham from time to time, we still laugh. And this album is going to surprise you as much as it surprised me. And it's this sense of, there's a kind of late 60s feel to some of the songs, but there's also some wonderful rock songs on here and mid-pace stuff and acoustic flavoured folky stuff. Also on the song When I Met You, there's some fantastic fiery guitar playing on it. And I think people forget that, you know, Luther was a fine, fiery lead guitarist. Use the word fiery twice then, but he is. You know, think of Evil Woman off Spooky 2, for instance. But there's some really good guitar playing on this. But it shows that he was, you see him now, he was Ariel Bender in Mott. He was also the lead guitarist in Widowmaker. And so you see him as the lead guitarist. But on this, he's the vocalist, he's the songwriter, and he's the guitarist. But it's a proper solo album from the time. But the production means to me, I just love this. I love albums from this period. I love the adventurousness of them, the exploratory nature for the musician, finding their feet and finding out what they're going to do, knowing that they could never repeat this again. There's great essay, including Luther all the way through it, and what he feels and how he feels about this album, and he loves this album, and he's so pleased that it's out again. And it talks about his history and his career, and what was going on at the time, and it's really, really good. And it is researched and received and coordinated by Mark Powell, and it was remastered by Pascal Byrne at the Audio Archiving Company in Hertfordshire, and it's really, really, really good. I've been after this for ages, so the fact it's being re-released is just superb. So, highly recommended for those of you who want to explore back into the hidden, almost like Lord of the Rings style time of the early early 70s really, and when all these musicians were just like full of creativity, but superb stuff, really, really is. So thank you for watching, thank you for being here, thank you for supporting me. Please comment, subscribe, share, keep spinning those records, and remember, music is the healer and the doctor, and I shall see you very, very soon.